Well, it's martini time again. You know, I've been had a little flu vacation for the past couple of weeks. Not a serious flu, but enough to just disconnect me from my martini time. So I've wound up my father's watch again, and I've got myself a martini, my chicken martini, and I'm here again. And I noticed that. You know, I had some resistance to doing this, picking it up after taking my little flu vacation when, you know, I was coughing and didn't have the energy, you know. So this requires energy for me to do this. And it's not the energy from the gin either, because I haven't had any martinis for a couple of weeks. So at least I know I'm not addicted to them. So anyway, funny thing though, as I was, and I'll talk about this resistance, but when I was setting up the iPad just now, which requires just first of all, I was going to do this yesterday, but the iPad was totally redlined. It had no battery at all, so I charged up the battery. So then I was going to get it set up, and the process of getting this set up is I have the iPad on a tripod, and then I go to the camera and put it on video, and then put it on mirror, and then I go to Facebook and I have to type in a title. But before I do that, I have to turn the iPad on. So I was kind of like nervous, and I kept punching in the four number code, and I punched it in wrong three or four times, and the iPad shut off. So you can't. You have to wait until the iPad is disconnected. You won't just, you know, you have to wait a minute before it'll even let you try it. So I laughed and laughed on that because it just showed my little bit of nervousness here. I'd never done that before. So anyway, the resistance is over, and I'm back in the pool. It's kind of like. It reminds me of meditation in a way. This is a meditation for me because I come here and just jump in. I have an idea, you know, what I've been writing about during the day, thinking about or learning, and I have a desire to share it. So there's an energy here. And once that energy gets disconnected, it's kind of like, you know, with meditation or jogging, for instance. So you got that energy up and you do it every day, no matter what, or walking or something. And then you take a vacation, you get sick, and then or whatever, and you just can't get it up again. You know, oh, I don't know, I'll let it go then. You know, oh, what's the use? You know, so that kind of like getting the energy back up again sometimes. When we have a break in our commitment, a break in our vocation, a break in our intention, you see, often we'll derail it, and we have a different. If sometimes we never pick it up again. Sometimes we never walk or jog or do anything that requires that get up and go energy to activate it. You see. So this, for me, is an activation. It's an activation of Facebook Live, you see. Facebook Live requires a different energy than just talking to somebody. Somebody comes to your door and you talk to them. Even though you're live, it takes a different energy than setting up and talking to you live. So anyway, that out of the way. Today, what's in the news, of course, has been the Parkland or South Florida mass shooting. And I've written about this before, and hopefully something different will happen this time. That's always the hope. And it's like anything in your life where you get into a habit ritual. And the habit ritual always turns out bad. I mean, like you get into every time I see that person, I get into an argument. Every time that cousin comes home, I get into a fight. Every time we do this, I get into a fight, you see. Every time even though I vow never to do it again, it happens again, and there I go. And then I come off and I say, oh, I did it again, and I smack myself like a Shia, self-flagellation, you see. And then I vow not to do it again, and damned if I don't do it again. So it becomes a ritual of the mind. And mass shootings are now a American ritual. You can, and everybody's doing this, you can map out the script. There's like, oh no, this shouldn't be happening. And then there's the video zooms in, the live cameras zoom in, you can see it going on, the people running and everything, and the breaking news, and everybody stops what they're doing and they run to the TV and look, you see, like an America Super Bowl of the media. Everybody's looking, you know, it's real time. And then they either kill the shooter or they don't. And then you got the parade of victims and the re-reacting of it. Everybody's re-reacting the thing, the horror, the terror, you see. Oh, the horror, the horror. And then now every kid's got a video camera, so now we're watching clips during the actual shooting. It's a wonder we don't have a video of the shooter while he's shooting them. While I'm being shot, I'm videoing it. You know, that's next. So it's kind of like a real-time action movie. Real time, you know, it's not fake stuff, it's not reenactment, it's real time, it's live, you know, wow, you know. And then you have the parade of victims, and then you have the recriminations and the blame and who did it and what's the cause, and then you have the politicians saying never again, and then you have the parents crying, and then you have the sacred spot creating where the people come and bring flowers and the candle vigil, and you know, it's a script, the whole thing. You're not demeaning it, not saying it shouldn't be, it's just what is, but it's predictable, and that means a ritual. It's an American ritual. Other countries don't do this. I don't know of any country that's ever done this. But it's the slaughter of innocents. And whenever you have innocents killed, there is a ritual involved there. Sacrificial rituals. Sacrificial rituals require the killing of innocents. That's what it's all about. That's why the virgin goes. You know, throw a virgin into the volcano. You know, the innocent. You know, even in the Bible, you know, the sacrifice of the innocents. You know, the innocent babies. You know, whatever. You know, that's the ingredient to sacrifice. So the sacrifice is either going to be a sacrifice of innocence or a willing innocent. You know, so the innocent goes willingly to sacrifice himself for the good of the society. You see, I'll do it. You see. So anyway, there's an element of that here, a sacrificial ritual, because it's always innocents getting sacrificed, kids. You know, that shooting children, innocents, you know, that, and so there's that element to it. And and people say, well, what's different now? You know, it didn't used to be. I was just reading about the gun law. I think in 1968, they discriminated in the gun laws between long rifles and handguns. The handguns were more dangerous because long rifles were bought by hunters, you know, the single bolt action hunting rifle, and guns were bought, you know, are more dangerous. So the age limit was raised on guns, but 18, yeah, you're going to be a young kid, you want to go hunting, you got to buy a gun, you see. So there's less restrictions on guns. Of course, then the guns evolved into assault rifles. But anyway, there's that, times have changed, so that the original gun laws don't make any sense anymore. That's one thing. And the other thing is social media has arrived, you see. First came 24/7 cable news. Well, let's go back further. Before TV in the 50s, you had print media. And everybody, you know, the father comes home and he sits down and he takes out the newspaper and he reads the news of the day, you know. And the wife brings him his pipe and his slipper and tea or a highball. And you go to the men's club and they're all reading the newspaper. And you look at the subway and they're all reading their newspaper, you see. That's the way information was shared. But it's cool. cool information. I mean, in other words, if you read today, if you get up today and get the morning paper and you read about the shooting in Florida yesterday, right? You didn't know anything about it. Yesterday, you know, it's factual. You get the the newspapers really didn't have that many pictures, but there might be a picture of something, and then it would be the facts, just the facts. Joe Friday on Dragnet, just the facts, ma'am. And so you would get that and you say, oh no, that's really bad, you see. But you wouldn't cry, most likely. It wouldn't be your child that was shot. It would be those children, those people were shot, you see. Objects, right? So now TV comes along and it shifts the viewpoint from objective, it's those people over there, way, way, way far away, you see, to I feel threatened now. My children are at risk, you see. Suddenly it's personal. Print news is impersonal. TV news, cable news particularly, is personal news. So the food now, the food, news as food, is delivered on an emotional platter. And it's delivered in a story, a subjective story. If you notice news today, when anything happens, the reporter sticks a mic there and says, how do you feel? Can you tell me what your thoughts were? How were you feeling when this happened? I want to know how you feel. Nobody ever wanted to know how anybody felt in print news. You see, what are the facts? What are the objective facts? That's what I want to know, you see. I don't want to know how you felt. you see, but you couldn't really share that in print news unless you were reading a novel. But the media news, the TV news, the social media news, is all about feeling, you see. And if you can get somebody to cry, whoa, 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 you know, oh man, you're right in on that. That's prime time. That just goes viral. If you get somebody who's outraged, if you get somebody who's crying, if you get some bigwig or some politician to tear up, you see, or some cop to cry, oh, that's gold, you see. That's transmittable. So feeling is being transmitted through this media. Nothing wrong with this. Can't change it. It's just the way it is. So we're trying to understand what something is, not what's wrong with everything, but what is it? And you can't understand what a mass shooting is until you understand the whole context, you see. If you want to know what a butterfly is, you don't pin it up on the wall and dissect it. You understand it in the context of the garden. You understand it in the meaning of the butterfly is in the context of the garden. Not on the pinning up on a wall, you see, and looking at it as a thing in itself, you see. So if we look at the mass shooting as a thing in itself, like a butterfly on the wall, we'll never understand it because we're not relaying it to the context in which it happens. You see, if you change anything, if you change the background to anything, you change the meaning of it. We do this all the time in Photoshop and green screens on TV. And, you know, if you have a weatherman first did it, we're so used to it in weathermen, you have a weatherman standing there in front of a green screen and they've changed the background. And you can have the weather map up there, or you can have New York City up there, or you can have anything on the background, but the guy's standing here by himself. So if you take him out and look at him separately, you'll never understand what the meaning of that person is because it comes from the background. You see, so anything in this room, take this thimble here. Now, what's the meaning of this thimble? Well, if I just hold this up by itself and say, what's the meaning of this? Well, you might come up with all kinds of different factual meanings of it, you see. What's the meaning of this thing? Well, you use it for this or that, you see, or whatever. No, that's not the meaning of this. The meaning of this, and the reason I put it here, is because this was my mother's thimble. And this is what she used, this little teeny bitty thing. This is what she used. I guess she put it on a big, and this is what she used to sew with. You see, so it's not just a thimble. It's my mother's thimble, you see. So that's the meaning of this. That's why I put it here. What's the meaning of this? Cotton ball. Well, it's a cotton ball. It grows in the South. Make cotton out of it, and you could have a whole encyclopedia. You could get a PhD on this cotton ball. It wouldn't be the meaning of it. For me, the meaning of this is that it's a metaphor. See the seeds in it, and you feel them. Oh, I want to get, that's understanding. I want to get the understanding out of this cotton ball. So the mass shooting is like this cotton ball. I want to pull it apart to understand it, you see. So I have to understand mass shooting in the context of America in order to understand what it is. Not who did it. That's not understanding. Blame is never understanding. You can't discover understanding by blaming yourself or anybody else. Blaming is part of the context, you see. So the context keeps expanding. You know, you say, oh, it's this and that. No, it's more than that. So the context is kind of like throwing a rock into a pond, and the ripple expands in the pond. Well, if you try to stop the ripple and say, oh, it's just that, you say, well, you've missed the rest of the pond. You've interrupted the ripple. You've interrupted understanding and stopped it too short. It's called premature ejaculation. Take a sip of gin on that. See? So you can't interfere with understanding. You can't stop the ripple and say, that's far enough. Getting too close now. Now you're starting to include me. You see? So in understanding the mass shooting, we don't want to include ourselves. We don't want to include the fact that we as Americans are responsible. We are America, and America is the conditions in which these things are happening. These ritual sacrifices. So that means we're all innocent, guilty. We're all participating in America, whether we like it or not. If you're here, you're here. If you're watching TV, if you're using the technology, you're participating in it, you see. If you're having opinions, if you're arguing, whatever you're doing, we're all participating in it. The whole pond, you see. The whole pond is creating these ritual sacrifices. And so now you get a problem of, well, how can we fix it? Well, if you ever had a swimming pool, you can't change the water overnight. If it's polluted and you're in the pool, you're going to drink the water. And your mind's going to be affected by the pond, you see. So it's going to take a while to filter out this water and purify it. Hopefully, the anger and the frustration will build, as it is, to where the American people say enough is enough. And then the American people will create a force great enough, greater than the inertia, greater than the pollution of the pond, greater than the habit, you see. A force greater than that, that will begin to purify our American pond. And it will take a while. And who knows when it will really start picking up, when there will be the first shift, you see. That's what the resistance fears, you see, the gun lobby. If you allow one regulation to be removed, that will start the slippery slope, and they'll take away your guns, is the logic, you see. So if you let one assault rifle be banned, that will mean they're going to come for your small .22 pistol, your BB gun, and take that away. Your hunting rifle. You'll take that away, you see. If you let one gun be regulated, you see, that's the logic. So there's a great fear of a shift coming. There's a great fear of a change in consciousness. Because once it starts, you can't stop it. It begins to have a momentum, a rolling thunder. And I really feel that's going on today, a rolling thunder, particularly of women, a rolling thunder of women who are saying, we've had enough. The last time this happened in America was Prohibition. Well, that didn't work out too well. But women had enough of their husbands spending all of their money and time in the saloon. So they said, we want them home. So that was really, there was a lot of different movements in it. But anyway, that was primarily began with a woman's movement so the men would stop being drunk in the saloons, which were men's saloons. Now I'm getting off now, so I'm going to end with that. So thanks for dropping in. I feel good. I feel good coming back to Martini time. So maybe my energy will be renewed and I feel good. So thanks for dropping in.